Hey everyone, congratulations on making it to part 3 of our Twiddle muff tutorial. Super exciting because we're almost done. So what you're going to need for this portion is some yellow yarn for the sun. Now moving on to the back, you're going to need your pom-poms, whatever color you have, and then a hot glue gun so we can glue on the felt, which is something you'll also need, and then brown yarn for the stem. And then you will lastly need a threading needle so we can sew everything together. To begin our sun, we're going to first start off with a magic circle, and this is going to be very similar to when we made the top of our tree. So let's take our yellow yarn and we're going to wrap it around our fingers to create this X. Now we just want to take our hook, insert inside the circle, grab some of this yarn through, and then with this hand where my hook is, I'm just going to grab this part of the yarn so I can yarn over my hook and pull through. Then we're going to single crochet into the circle 6 times. Remember, when we single crochet, we're going through the circle and we're also going over this yarn right here. Okay, so let me go inside the circle, grab some of this yarn through, we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. So that is a single crochet, and I'm going to do that 5 more times. Once we have 6 single crochets, let's pull on this yarn so we can close up this circle, and then we're going to slip stitch into our first stitch. So here is my first stitch. I'm just going in and then I'm pulling this yarn straight through both the loops. So we're going to do the same thing if we don't have a stitch marker or we don't want to use a stitch marker. This is my last stitch right here. I'm going to insert my hook through that stitch, and then I'm going to take this back piece of yarn, which is where the magic circle was. So we just take it and pull it through, and that is how we keep track of where our first stitch is. So moving on to round 2, for round 2 we're going to increase into every stitch, which means 2 single crochets into each stitch. So let's go into this first one here. That was 1 and 2. So you want to repeat that in each stitch all the way until the end, until you end up with 12 stitches in total for round 2. I currently have 10 stitches in this round, so now I'm just going to remove my yarn so I can crochet into the last one. Well, I'm going to do my increase, so 10 right now, and this is going to be 11, and then we can put this yarn back next to that one, that stitch we just did, and then going into the same stitch we're going to do our last one to make it 12. Remember, I just put the yarn there, so that's where the stitch marker would be. So that is my last stitch. Now moving on to round 3. So I am moving a little bit faster because we have already done something similar to this. So for round 3, we're going to start off with an increase into the first stitch. So there's my first stitch. We're going to do 1 and 2. Now you want to single crochet into the next stitch. So here's the next stitch over, and that is 1 single crochet. So you're going to repeat that step of the increase and then the single crochet into each of these stitches until you end up with 18 stitches in total for round 3. For round 4, we're going to increase into the first stitch. Then you want to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So there's the next stitch, that was 1, and then the stitch after, that's 2. So we want to repeat that all the way through until we end up with 24 stitches in round 4. For round 5, we're going to increase into the first stitch. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So here's 1, going into my next one, and then going into my third one. And now I have to repeat those steps all the way through until I end up with 30 stitches in total for round 5. I actually want to do one more row of increases. So for this one, we're going to again start with an increase into the first stitch. So that's 1, 2 into the same one, and then you want to single crochet into the next 4 stitches. And then this is my 4th one. Now we're going to end up, once you repeat that, we're going to end up with 32 stitches in total for round 6. I meant to say 36 stitches in round 6. I'm not sure how I said 32 because that means we would be going back down, but 36 stitches in round 6. And now we can move on to the rays of our sun. So where you ended off is where we're going to start our chain, and we're going to do a chain of 11. So that means yarning over your hook and pulling through. So that was 1. Similar to when we made the grass, we're going to increase into each one of these stitches until we reach the top of this, and then I'll show you how we can move on from then. But I'll show you how to start off so you don't go into, remember, the one closest to the hook, you go into the one after that. So this guy here, and then I'm going to do my increase with a single crochet. So that's 1, 2, into the same one. Now I'm going to repeat that all the way until I get back to the top. I just finished this ray and now I'm back all the way at the top. So as you can see, this ray is where this stitch is. I always like to go back and single crochet into that same stitch just to secure it and it stays in place. And then next you want to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So you see this guy right here, there's 1. And then I'm moving on to the next stitch after that. So in that second one is where we're going to start our new chain. So we're going to do another chain of 11. I just finished my chain of 11 and I'm going to repeat the same thing as I did over here. So you're just increasing into each one of these, and then once you reach the top, you want to single crochet into that same stitch. Then you do 2 single crochets, and on that second one is where you'll do your chain again. You repeat that all the way until you get all of your rays around, and that's when I'll be back. Once you finish your last ray, we can now just cut off some excess piece of yarn because we will need to sew this. So remember, we always take our yarn and put it into this loop here and then just secure it that way. So now we can take our twiddle muff, and I am going to place mine right in the middle here. And I'm also going to add the clouds. Okay, so I'm just going to place the clouds here just to see where I should have the sun, just to make sure it's all in the right spot. But I think I want to put a cloud there and a cloud here. Okay, so that means I need to place it there. So now I'm just going to remove the clouds really quick so I can sew on the sun. To sew our sun, we are going to need a threading needle, and you're just going to place your yarn inside and pull it through. So next, I'm going to turn my work this way just so you can see it. Also, it's easier on me. So now when I sew it, I like to go like right on the outer corners. So I'm gonna grab my twiddle muff and the sun so it stays in place. I'm going to start right at the corner where the thread already is, and I'm going to go inside the twiddle muff, and then I'm gonna go back up. I'm pretty sure most people know how to attach items on, but just in case you don't, I will just show a little bit of this. So I'm going to keep going in the twiddle muff. Let me see if I can turn this to show you. So you can see the needle is poking through the twiddle muff, and then I'm going back up. So I'm going to continue doing that until I reach all the way back around to where I first started my threading stitch. I've made it back all the way to where I originally started, and if you have extra yarn, you can go around one more time, or we can just secure it on the inside now. So what you want to do is just poke the needle back in, and this time pull all the way through, and then we're going to secure it from the inside. So let me open that up. Let's not lose the yarn. Okay, so here is the yarn, and now we're going to secure it on the inside. So similar to when we secured the green from the inside. So we're just going to find any old stitch in here, take the yarn, but not all the way through yet, just until you have this loop, and then put that yarn through it and secure it. I'm going to do that one more time. Okay, now this yarn is a little bit too long. I can keep securing it to make it shorter, but instead I'm just going to cut it off a bit, not the whole thing, because I mean, as you can see, we already have yarn on the inside, but now we have our sun on, so now we can attach, what the heck is this? Now that I have my sun on, I'm going to move on to the cloud. So the cloud is literally the same method. So let me take this one. And I'm going to put that one down there. And I'm not going to show you how to sew it because it's honestly the same thing as the sun. You just want to go around and make sure it's secure onto the muff. I'm going to show you a little bit of how I attach the cloud because it is smaller, but you know how on this one we were from the outside going, you know, in and over? Instead, because this is smaller, you want to just pull it all the way in and then go back out. And then when you reach the longer side is when you can go from this way back up. Okay, now I'm just going to continue sewing this on and I'll be back when I'm done. Here's what the front of my Twiddle muff currently looks like. Now we can move on to the back. And the first thing I'm going to do is add my tree trunk. So I'm going to put it on this side. You can put it anywhere you like, but I'm going to put it on this side. And then I'm going to start from the bottom, going all the way to the top. And because I showed you how to sew the sun already, it's the same method. So I'm going to fast forward and sew this up. So I accidentally went a little bit too high with this, but totally fine. I'm now going to sew on the top of the tree. And because I kind of put it a little bit to the corner, I'm just going to lean it over a bit and, you know, just makeshift this. We don't need to make it like super perfect. So I'm going to sew this on now. Now it's time to add our little basket, and I already put the thread into my needle. And remember, my basket was a little bit too long, so I'm going to fold down the edges just a tiny bit, and then I'm going to place it down, and I'm going to be sewing onto the front piece and then that extra piece because it's too big, and then I'm going inside of the Twiddle muff. So it's just the same thing, it's just because this is bigger, I have to go through both of these sections.
Once you get to the bottom, you just have to lay it flat, and then you're just going to sew straight across.
I attached the clouds on the back off camera, and now we're going to be working on the apples for the tree and our bag. So I've already pre-made a couple of these. I'm just going to show you how to make one. So as you can see, I have the pom-pom. These are the green apples because I don't have any more red. And we're just going to make the leaf, and then you're just going to need some brown yarn. So with the brown yarn, you just want to cut off a little bit. We can shorten this later. And then this is the yarn that frays, so it's kind of annoying, but I'm just trying to use it up. And now we want to take our green felt, and then we're going to fold it in half, and we're just going to cut out a little leaf. So you're just going to make a C. Just cut it out like this. It's going to be a little bit hard because it's a small leaf. And then here we go. So next you're going to need some hot glue, and then you're going to place it on the back of this. You want to place your yarn first and then the glue. So I'm going to get my hot glue gun and attach this. So if you want, you can make the leaf bigger, but I'm just going to stick with that since it's already done. So now because this is too long, I'm just going to cut off some of that yarn, and then now we're going to hot glue some of these to the tree. For these two apples, we can just place it into our basket. If you want to attach it to the Twiddle muff, you can hot glue some yarn to this guy and then attach that yarn to this Twiddle muff. That way it will stay on together, but I'm just going to place this in my basket, and that is our Twiddle muff. We finally made it to the end of our Twiddle muff tutorial, and this is what we have. A cute little sun at the front. I think you can even jazz this up a little bit more if you add some safety eyes and a mouth to the sun, but this is too much for me already, so if you do want to make this a little bit more snazzy, you can add some eyes and a mouth. And then we have our clouds here. We have a beautiful pom-pom border. When I turn this over, there's just a mass amount of items here. We have our tentacle grass, a cute little tree with our green apples, and then on the inside of our basket we have a red and green apple, and then of course we have a couple more clouds. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It took me over 6 hours to film, and I'm not even including the time I spent just to prep the other Twiddle muffs, and I didn't even edit this yet, but I really hope you enjoyed it, and I feel like I deserve to buy myself something. I think I want to get some makeup, and that means I need to go online shopping. So this is the end of this video, and thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I'll see you in my next video.